If you own a chainsaw and you use it with any regularity, eventually it's going to come time to change your chain. And there's a few critical things that everyone should know about changing the chain on their chainsaw, and we're going to go over those today. So, let's begin. First thing you want to do is you want to pull back on this. This is your chain brake or your kickback brake. And that's something that protects you in the event that your chain gets caught on something and it wants to kick back into your head. This brake, this automatically engages a brake, kind of like how the seatbelt in your car work, and stops the chain. So, even if the chain does hit you in the head, at least it's not going 1,000 miles an hour. Okay, to begin, you release your chain, and then you loosen what's called your bar nuts. Once you get them loose, you can just take them off by hand. Take your cover off. This is what the inside of your cover looks like. Just a piece of plastic. Alright, now what we're looking at here is your sprocket, and this is actually what is the turning force that the engine creates. Your bar and your chain. You can just take it off simply by pulling it off like that. And one thing important about a bar is, even though there is writing on it, so it looks like there is a specific direction, your bar is actually reversible. So, if one side starts to wear, just like you flip a mattress, you can flip your bar. Gives you a little more life. For one, you have the drive link count, the number of drive links. What I like to do is line up 2 drive links on the top. You see those 2? And just count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. This chain goes all the way to 74 drive links. The gauge of the chain is the actual width of that drive tooth. And that corresponds to the groove that's in this bar. Alright. Those are being the most important 2 elements. The actual count, the drive link count, and the pitch. The gauge, I'm sorry. So one way that number is described is in your part number, 26 RSC 74. Throughout time, as your chain starts to wear, these rivets actually wobble a little bit. And that wobble actually stretches your chain. It's not really a stretch, but it's that rivet wearing out and the circumference of your chain gets bigger. So over time, to keep your chain the right tightness, you have an adjuster that allows you to adjust that. Turning it clockwise tightens your chain. Turning it counterclockwise loosens your chain. So we're going to loosen it right now to give us a little bit of room to work with. Now, a very important part is the direction that the chain travels. You can actually put a chain on backwards even though you can't put a bar on backwards. And if you look very carefully at this tooth, this is the actual cutting tooth. This edge is razor sharp, and remember how I said the sprocket is turning clockwise? The chain is going out like this and coming back down. So you want the edge of that drive tooth to cut. Take a careful look. You want the chain to be in this direction. There's a little guide in front of the tooth, and you want that going forward. Okay. Slip this into the groove, the chain. We loosened our adjuster. We took the chain brake off to allow the sprocket to spin freely. And now we'll fit the chain into the sprocket. Alright. And very important thing that we're doing here is making sure that the adjuster goes through the hole here. Now, we have a little bit of slack in the chain. And watch, as I twist the adjuster clockwise, it'll take the slack out of the chain. Make sure it goes into its groove. And at this point, sometimes it's a little tricky. You can just mess with it and you'll get it figured out. There we go. Real tricky. For me this time, shouldn't be this difficult. Okay. You can go ahead and put your cover back on there whenever you get everything lined up. And put your bar nuts on. Just to make sure nothing falls off like it just did with me. Okay. Now without tightening these bar nuts, the only way to effectively adjust your chain is with your bar nuts loose. So even if you didn't just put a new chain on, you just want to tighten your chain, you need to loosen these off first and then tighten down. Okay, so a lot of people aren't sure of what the proper tightness is. The proper tightness is if you pull in the middle of the chain, you can just barely get the tooth to come out of the groove. You know, if you pull anywhere here, you can't do that. So we probably should go a little bit tighter. About like this. That's perfect. Tighten your bar nuts back down, and you're good to go. One thing I like to do is after I get the nuts on there, I like to make sure that the chain is properly on the sprocket and in the groove of the bar. And what I do is I'll grab it with a rag or with my hand in a glove and move the chain like that. Be very careful when you do that. You can cut yourself, or you can put the chain down on something. Simply go like that. That's how you put a chain on your chainsaw.